He only brushed the handlebar, a light graze as he passed by the row of parked motorcycles. But the biker didn't see an accident. He saw an old man in a faded jacket and decided that was reason enough to attack. A loud snap, and an 86-year-old veteran fell onto the sidewalk, still holding the bread he had just bought. The bar's crowd watched. Phones stayed in pockets. Not a single soul stepped forward. But 20 minutes later, the silence was broken. The sky pulsed with rotors, and a Black Hawk helicopter descended onto the main street. Soldiers in tactical gear appeared like a storm was coming. Because that was no ordinary old man. He was someone's father. And someone's unit was watching. If you believe dignity doesn't retire with age, like this, type respect in the comments, hit like and subscribe, because this story proves some uniforms are never taken off. Most people passed Samuel Davies without even a second glance. He was just an old man in worn boots, walking past the same bar he'd been visiting every Thursday for over a decade. 86 years old, retired Army mechanic. 3 missions, 2 medals, and a body that no longer responded like it used to. He didn't complain, didn't ask for honor or pity. He just wanted a quiet spot at the diner, a hot coffee, and time to walk home with the help of his cane. But it's impossible for someone like Samuel to be invisible. Because he carries stories not everyone knows. Stories of sacrifice, sleepless nights in trenches, friends who never came home. Samuel isn't just an ordinary old man. He is a living memory of a time when courage was measured on the battlefield, not on social media. And yet, that cold morning, his courage was tested in the cruelest and most banal way possible, with a cowardly assault and the crowd's indifference. That morning was colder than usual. Samuel wore his old olive green jacket, issued by the Army in 1983, patched on the sleeves but still warm. On the left chest, a faded mark of a name tag that once said S. Davies. He left the corner deli, a small paper bag under his arm, bread, cough drops, and a postcard he wanted to send to his grandson at college. Across the street, a group of bikers gathered in front of the bar, laughing loudly, leaning on chrome machines gleaming in the sun. Samuel didn't pay them any attention. He wasn't afraid of the noise. He'd faced worse sounds, in places where silence meant danger. As he passed the motorcycles, his coat brushed a handlebar. Lightly. The bike wobbled but didn't fall. Samuel stopped immediately. Turned around, hands raised. "I didn't mean to touch it, son. My coat's thicker than I remembered," he said with a calm apologetic smile. No mockery. No carelessness. Just the kindness of an old man. But the tallest biker stepped forward, dark sunglasses reflecting the noon sun. Without asking anything. Without checking his bike. He slapped Samuel across the face. The sound echoed down the street walls. The old man fell to the sidewalk with a weak groan. One hand still held the torn bag. The bread rolled to the gutter. The laughter inside the bar continued. No one moved. Someone took a sip and turned their chair. Samuel didn't scream. He just sat slowly, one knee trembling, his face red with humiliation more than pain, and began picking up the pieces of bread from the ground. Samuel's cheek burned, but he didn't touch it. He picked up the crushed bread, dirty with dust and oil, and carefully placed it back in the torn bag. As if it still mattered. People kept passing by. A couple crossed the street to avoid looking. A waitress peeked through the diner window and then went back to her table. The biker who assaulted him was already laughing again with his friends. No apologies, no fear, just the certainty that no one would confront him for hitting a quiet old man in a worn jacket. But there's the point: indifference. What happens to a society when an act like this goes unnoticed? When people choose not to act? Samuel's story isn't just about a man attacked. It's the story of a people who forget the value of empathy, who get used to injustice and worse, normalize it. And that hurts more than any slap. Samuel got up slowly, holding the metal pole next to the bus stop bench for support. His cane had rolled a few feet away. He limped over to it, bent down with a slight groan, and made a grimace, not from pain, but from the weight of being seen and ignored. He sat on the bench and let out a shaky breath, the cold air cutting through his lungs. His hearing aid buzzed softly, his pride buzzed louder. In 1970, he had rescued 3 soldiers from a burning jeep near Hugh City. Now, in 2025, He couldn't even get a stranger to offer him a piece of paper for the blood at the corner of his mouth. A teenager passed by with headphones. Samuel discreetly raised his hand, but the boy didn't see, or maybe didn't want to see. He wasn't seeking sympathy. He was looking for proof he still existed. Inside the bar, the biker lit a cigarette and bragged to his friends. He should have stayed out of the way. Grandpa got in the way. Samuel's jaw clenched. He'd been called many things in life: soldier, husband, father, sergeant. But useless was never one of them. Still, he said nothing. He just adjusted his jacket, wiped his lip with his sleeve, and pulled out a simple cell phone, cracked screen and buttons. On the screen, a contact, Falcon 6, emergency only. He pressed the button once and leaned back, waiting. 15 minutes passed. Samuel didn't move from the bench. He didn't look angry or scared, just sitting upright, calm, like waiting for a bus no one saw coming. Then came the distant hum. It started as a slight vibration on the ground. Some customers looked around. Someone stepped out of the bar, squinting toward the horizon. The sound grew. A rhythmic deep pulse made glasses on the tables tremble. The bartender went outside to see what it was. "That's not a truck," he murmured. And it wasn't. Beyond the tree line, the unmistakable silhouette of a Black Hawk helicopter appeared. Low fast, heading straight for downtown. Phones finally came out of pockets. People froze. Dogs barked from passing cars. In 60 seconds, the Black Hawk landed on the empty field behind the shops. A matte black SUV appeared on the opposite side and stopped in front of the bar. Doors opened in unison. Boots hit the pavement. No one spoke. A dozen figures in tactical gear emerged, sharp-eyed, precise movements, like they'd done this 1,000 times and never missed. From the helicopter, a man stepped down. No sunglasses. No pose. Just authority in every line of his posture. He was younger than Samuel, but not by much. Maybe just over 50 years old. Broad shoulders, firm jaw, steel eyes. He walked straight to the bench. Samuel looked up, blinked once, and nodded. The man didn't salute. He knelt. "Dad," he said calmly, one hand wiping dried blood from Samuel's face. "I got here as fast as I could." Samuel said nothing. Didn't need to. Because at that moment, the biker, still beside his friends, still confident in his ignorance, slowly turned to the growing silence around him and saw the men. And he saw the patch on the man's shoulder. U.S. Army Special Operations. Commander Davies. The biker finally realized he had assaulted the wrong man. The street fell silent. The biker stood frozen, his leather vest creaking softly as his shoulders stiffened. His smile vanished like steam on the sidewalk. Commander Davies slowly rose, hands steady at his sides. Didn't draw a weapon. Didn't clench fists. Just looked. Behind him, his men spread silently, forming a semicircle that isolated the entire block. No weapons in sight. Just a presence that made every spine straighten instinctively. Samuel, still seated, bowed his head slightly, not in submission, but in silent acknowledgement. Inside the bar, the music stopped. Someone peeked through the blinds. A waitress hid behind the counter, phone forgotten in her hand. The biker stepped back as Commander Davies advanced. His voice was calm, but firm. "Who here assaulted a veteran?" No one answered. Not right away. Then the biker stepped forward, small step, arms half raised in false defense. "Man, he was just an old guy. He touched my bike." Davies didn't blink. Didn't move. That old man served this country while you were still learning to spell your own name. A murmur ran through the onlookers. Someone recording whispered, "Whoa." The biker scoffed, trying to keep up the act. "You military guys think you can come in and run everything." Davies took one more step. Just one. But it felt like an abyss. "I don't run anything here. I just make sure no one hits those who can't defend themselves. If you have a problem with that, I can help you learn respect." The biker looked at the crossed arms around him, eyes wavering, the crowd starting to stir. "That's enough," Davies said. "Put out the cigarette and apologize. Now." A heavy silence. Then slowly, the biker dropped the cigarette on the ground and said, "I'm sorry, old man. I didn't mean it." Samuel looked at his son, gave a weak smile, and said, "You're forgiven." The biker looked down, and everyone understood that that day, on an ordinary street, something changed. Something that can't be bought or sold. Respect. Honor. Dignity that doesn't fade, even when time tries. This story is a cruel and yet hopeful reminder. Respect and dignity are values that cross generations. They don't depend on age, appearance, or power. They depend on the humanity we choose to nurture. Old Samuel teaches us that true value lies in what we carry inside, in the strength to rise after a fall, and in the power of forgiveness even in the face of injustice. And for you, who saw this story, how about being someone who doesn't stand still? How about being the kind of person who defends respect, justice, and dignity in your daily life? Because in the end, the world changes one step at a time, with actions that seem small but carry the weight of infinity.